Welcome to another fun-filled Monday edition of Second City Sports Live and in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Along with Miss Lakeena McGee, I am Sydney Brown. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again at SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow me at Keenan McGee on the Twitter and at Keenan_McGee on the IG.
Make sure you download the Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps, whether it's the Apple iTunes Store, the Google Play, or Amazon. Wherever you get your apps, make sure that app says Sports Zone Chicago. You can catch up on any of our other 5 live shows. If you miss them, you download that Sports Zone Chicago app and watch and listen to any of our previous shows, including this one, Second City Sports. And speaking of Sports Zone Chicago, you can follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Once again, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at Sports Zone Chicago. And if you want to catch the audio version of this podcast, you can do so by subscribing to War on Anchor. We're available on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. Make sure you type in those search engine boxes on those podcast platforms, WARR on Anchor, to listen to the audio version of Second City Sports. And speaking of War Media, you can follow those guys on social media at Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at WARR Media. Once again, at WARR Media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, and subscribe, and tell your friends.
And we're unapologetically fun, and we have very different opinions. Lakeena, let's kick this Monday edition of Second City Sports off with some Monday Night Football action as we preview tonight's action between the Chicago Bears and the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's at 7:15 on ESPN. For those of you listening to us locally in Chicago, for those of you that don't have cable, parentheses, that game will be aired on WGN via the ESPN feed. Facts. But some more facts coming into tonight's game, Lakeena. Pittsburgh has won their last 3 in a row. They are 4-3 on the season, while the Bears are 2 games under 500 at 3-5. Lakeena, we talked about this when we picked our games with Christine on Friday. The Bears have a lot of work to do. We saw some promising signs last week against the San Francisco 49ers. Justin Fields clearly had his best game of the year. It looks like David Montgomery will be available to play tonight, but third-string quarterback Nick Foles is out due to personal illness reasons. Khalil Mack will be out. A couple of guys, or key guys, will be out as well for the Bears tonight. It's just that defensively, they have to do a whole lot more than what people normally expect from them because their stars are going to be out tonight to hammer home and put pressure on Ben Roethlisberger. Because right now, as we said on Friday, I don't see it. And it doesn't mean they can't have a good game. They could all surprise us tonight. It's the great unknown. But they got to have the performance of their life to be the mediocre Steelers team tonight.
Well, someone's got to give here for this. I think, the Steelers haven't beaten the Bears, I think, since Jerome Bettis was like the starting running back there.
I remember that game too, back in 2005. And that was when the Steelers won the Super Bowl that year.
Yeah, they actually lost together. The Bears actually beat them that year. And, the Steelers have actually had a good record at home on Monday Night Football since 1990. And I think they've won like 19 straight, I heard somewhere. So someone's got to give tonight. And look, can the Bears, beat the Steelers? Sure. I mean, Big Ben is not how he used to be. And, they got a good running back in the rookie Najee Harris. So I think as he goes, so does the offense. Maybe he'll be able to expose some of that. The pass rush, you still got Cam Hayward and Devin Bush. And of course, TJ Watts, I think he leads the league in sacks right now or like takeaways and such. So he's, you got to, good luck to the Bears online for having to deal with him. And I think that the key is going to be the running game. I feel like if David Montgomery's at 100% and, he'll be able to play tonight, and you got a really good backup in Herbert in the backfield, especially if he's not, if he's still, still a bit rusty. You know what? I think the Bears could pull it out, but will they? That's a whole nother story. I mean, Heinz Field, the place is going to be rocking. Justin Fields, he had his best game of the season, last week against the 49ers, a losing effort. But look, this could be one of those ugly games, 9-6 and those type of things. So, and unfortunately, we're not going to have the Manny cast tonight. So, we'll be able to. I would love to see Peyton and Eli sort of like yell and almost Eli almost swearing about the Bears offense and whatnot. But It is what it is. I mean, Max still isn't going to play, so that's going to be a big, that's going to be a big loss. We'll see how Robert Quinn does. Trying to defend, Harris. So look, this could be another one of those ugly like 9-6 type of games. So that's just how crazy it is. They're kind of even. I would say the Steelers are a little bit better, but not by much. Look, the world, a lot of strange things happen the rest of the weekend in the NFL. We'll talk about in a little bit, but could Ben Roethlisberger have his best game in years against the Bears? When throw for 3 or 4 touchdowns, sure. Could Justin Fields get a couple of touchdown passes and a rushing touchdown? Sure. Could we get a pick 6? Could the defenses, could we get a TJ Watt pick 6, or maybe Robert Quinn strip sack? I mean, who knows? There are so many things that can happen in this game tonight.
If you want to comment on any of our topics during today's show between now and 2 o'clock, you can do so by going to Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Place your questions and comments in the comments section. Lakeena will get them up on the screen for you. But if you decide to troll or do anything stupid, Lakeena will give you the Beer Lane Beer boot.
Bye-bye.
I love saying that. But you guys have been great to us, so keep the questions and comments coming. As we take a look at the numbers for tonight's game, ranking-wise, in terms of offense, the Bears are ranked dead last, while Pittsburgh ranks second from last, so they're a spot above the Bears. In total defense, the Bears are ranked 9th, while the Steelers are ranked at number 2. In passing, the Bears are dead last, and the Steelers are ranked 29th. In terms of rushing, the Steelers are dead last, and the Bears are ranked number 8 in the National Football League. Lakeena, you talked about the running game for Pittsburgh and Najee Harris. He had a good game last week. He had a touchdown to seal the win at Cleveland last week. He's had some good moments here and there throughout the season, but just reading those numbers to you and looking at it right before the show, I was shocked that the Steelers' rushing attack overall was dead last in the league. I found that to be surprising. You figure that Steelers head coach Mike Tomlin would have some better results than that, because, as you mentioned, Ben Roethlisberger is old. He doesn't have it anymore in terms of mobility himself. So, and we saw this last year when they went 11-0, the softest 11-0 start in NFL history. They leaned on the running the ball more, and they had bigger plays passing wise last year than they do this year. But you would figure that the rushing yards would be more consistent for the Steelers, but it hasn't been up to this point this year. Now, on the flip side, for the Bears, David Montgomery should return tonight. If that's the case, he'll probably get the bulk of the carries. And Khalil Herbert, who did a nice job filling in for Mr. Montgomery, he should get the backup carries tonight. If you're the Bears, you run until the Pittsburgh Steelers defense breaks. And that's going to give Justin Fields more confidence to throw downfield. You see he's been more confident in doing that the last couple of weeks. And hopefully the tight ends will show up again. You start to see that a little bit last week. I want them to do that again, just a little bit more consistency tonight.
Mm-hmm. Well, look, I think you still got Terrell Edmonds, you got Micah Fitzpatrick, so that those matchups are going to be very interesting, especially with the tight end. So again, will they be used well? I think that's a whole nother thing. So we look, Matt Nagy's back on the sideline, so calling plays. So like I said, I'm not really expecting too much, but you never know.
Yeah, hopefully what we expect from the Bears defense is some turnovers. Excuse me. As we mentioned, Khalil Mack is out tonight. A couple other guys is out as well. I know Eddie Jackson is questionable tonight. The safety for the Bears, he was injured on the second play of the game last week against the 49ers. But you would think that you could get home on Ben Roethlisberger. You would think at least 2 sacks. I know the Bears defense is up there still in the top 10 in the league despite all the injuries. But you would think that you could sack Ben Roethlisberger at least 2 times tonight. Can I at least get that?
Well, like I said before, it's going to come down to the running game. I mean, remember, Juju Smith-Schuster's done for the year, so they've been riding on the coattails of Harris. So you got to think that you got to I'm sure their game plan is probably going to be the same thing. Just give the ball to Harris and just keep it moving and try to wear down the Bears defense, because you can. Look, you can go through cuts and runs. I mean, the running backs the last couple of games have showed you. So you'll be able to do that, especially with Mac not being there again tonight. So look, like I said before, it's going to come down to the running game, and then look, I think could Big Ben kind of expose how bad that secondary is for the Bears? He probably can. I mean, who knows? But yeah, let's just hope that I said it before. They won't get blown out. Like I picked the Steelers, but I don't think it's going to be a blowout. Like I said before, it could come down to a last possession or something like that. So I'm not really expecting anything too wild. But again, week 9 has been very crazy in the NFL with some of these games. Yesterday, so anything could happen. But look, it's Monday Night Football, so something's got to give tonight.
Yeah, this will be Justin Fields' first primetime start as a starter in the NFL. We expect it to be ugly, close, it's just close no matter how it looks. I think it will come down to special teams. Carlos Santos, I know he missed his first extra point in a while in the Bears uniform last week, but his field goal streak is still intact. And Jakeem Grant, aka Devin Hester Jr. wannabe, do you think that we can expect a big return from him tonight? You never know.
Yeah, it's decent. It looks like Boswell's going to be back tonight as well, especially at that shot he took last week against the Browns. Yeah. But he should be back tonight. I mean, Ray McLeod, could have come down is a pretty good veteran, return specialist for the Steelers. So it could come down to special teams too. Placement of the ball, field position. So again, you just don't know. I mean, could it get ugly? Yeah, of course it can. Could it come down to a field goal? Sure, but. Again, look, when these two teams they only play each other every couple of years. So, I'm not really expecting anything too big. I think Fields is getting better and better each week, which is what you want. So if he can avoid getting sacked, which look, if you can have TJ Watt and Cam Hayward chasing you around, that's you're got a good accomplishment there. So. Like I said before, I think the Steelers, especially the way the division is set up, I think they're 4-3. They feel like they can still make a run at it. So, again, you never know. So let's move on here, Sid, because I'm I don't want to be spending all my time talking Bears Steelers because it's just right. You got two historic franchises. It's gonna get rated high. It's gonna get good ratings. So it'll probably be the highest rated game of the season, I'm sure. So I'm not all that other stuff is just whatever.
Right. You're listening to Second City Sports on a Monday right here on Sports Zone Chicago. We're live and in living color. Sydney Brown here with you along with Lakeena McGee. Lakeena, let's move over to week 9 of the NFL as far as the games that took place yesterday. And speaking of the AFC North, the Cleveland Browns, as I told you on Friday they would do, they destroyed the Cincinnati Bengals 41-16. Joe Burrow had a rough day for the Bengals. The second-year quarterback out of LSU, he was 28 of 40 for 282 yards and 2 interceptions. Nick Chubb for Cleveland ran the ball 14 times, 137 yards and 2 scores. Donovan Peoples-Jones, 2 catches, 86 yards, and they scored. And also, too, one of those interceptions that Joe Burrow threw, his name escapes me for the moment, but the Denzel Ward, sorry.
Denzel Ward. Also, was it Ward that 90-yard
99-yard
touchdown?
And that's what set the tone early for that Cleveland defense. As we talked about early in the season, Lakeena, Cleveland's defense was actually good, especially that secondary. It struggled for the past few weeks, but they rebounded yesterday to take a big win on the road in the division.
Yeah, I think that was a little bit surprising that they were able to, pull it out. Nick Chubb had 137 yards and 2 touchdown rushes. Baker, didn't, hasn't let that shoulder bother him. He threw for 218 yards and 2 touchdowns. So, and look, 5 sacks for that Browns defense, and that pick 6 by Ward. So it was definitely a complete game by the Browns. And so I think, people are wondering, are the Bengals frauds? Unfortunately, a performance like this, it makes you wonder. So I look at, the Browns kind of pretty much dominated from at the start of the second quarter. They scored 17 points and just, took their foot, put their foot on the gas and just, kept it there.
And one of the shocking upsets yesterday, we had 3 of them. The first one was the Denver Broncos destroying the Dallas Cowboys in Jerry's World, 30-16. Teddy Bridgewater, 19 of 28 for 249 yards and a touchdown. Williams ran the ball for Denver, 17 carries for 111 yards. Tim Patrick, the tight end for Denver, he was injured for a minute but came back in, had 4 catches, 85 yards, and a touchdown. Also, Melvin Ingram had a touchdown run as well early in the game. Lakeena, I did watch the majority of this game live via Makoputa. Ezekiel Elliott, it looks like he tried to give it a go early as far as running the ball, but Denver got so far ahead. The game plan for Dallas offensively was out the window, and Ezekiel Elliott injured his knee. He did make it back, but the game was far out of reach at that point. Dallas was over 3 on 4th down yesterday, 2 yards or less. Dak Prescott did not have a good game. CeeDee Lamb had a couple of drops. Amari Cooper, they didn't look his way that often. The reason why I know these two things is because I have both of them on my fantasy team, and it cost me yesterday. But that's besides the point. Dallas, I believe they'll still be fine. But Denver, they laid the wood on the Cowboys yesterday. They ran the ball very well. Their defense, even without Von Miller, who's now gone to the Rams, they looked more hungry yesterday. If you're a Dallas fan, you don't like what happened, obviously, but you'll still be just fine. But give all the credit to Denver.
Yeah, I mean Denver. I think a lot of people were kind of caught off guard. I think even Broncos fans. I follow a couple of
There
my
was a lot.
timeline.
Yeah, there was a lot of them down there in Irving, Texas yesterday.
Yeah,
Had an
yeah.
orange in the crowd.
Yeah, they
Shocking.
were. You would think, well, Broncos they got a pretty big fan base, so I'm not really that surprised and I'm sure a lot of them some of them probably do live in Denver. But look, I mean, Teddy Bridgewater had a touchdown. Like I said, Javonte Williams had 111 rushing yards. Melvin Gordon had a touchdown rush. I mean, it was really the run game that kind of kept the Dallas offense off the field. So they were. And also the Cowboys, like I said, they were I think they're 0 for also 0 for 2 on 4th downs. They went for it a couple of times on 4th downs. Dak did not look good. Could it be maybe a little bit of rust? Look, I'm not going to say that the Cowboys still can't wrap up the NFC East. We'll get to that in a second. But the fact that you the Broncos team that been kind of like Deanna at 500, going back and forth. They had an early start. They kind of faded. They lost 3 of their last 4, but I think this is a pretty, especially also to their defense. I mean, they forced a lot of 3 and outs, but this is a defense that did not have, like you said, Von Miller is gone, so and Jonathan Cooper had had both their sacks, so this was definitely definitely probably one of the best performances. I think even Vic Fangio said in the presser, this is definitely the team's best performance in about a month. So, good hats off to them, for pulling off the upset.
In the ugly bowl from South Beach, Florida, it was the Miami Dolphins improving their record to 2-7 after defeating the Houston Texans 19-7. Jacoby Brissett passed for 244 yards and a touchdown for the Dolphins. Myles Gaskin ran the ball 20 times for 34 yards, but he had a big touchdown. Jalen Rollo, the rookie wide receiver for the Dolphins, had 8 catches and 83 yards.
Just an ugly game from start to finish. I mean, 17-9.
This is kind of your game, Lakeena.
Oh yeah. Well, it was just a bad game. I mean, Brissett threw 2 early interceptions, were able to kind of overcome that. They really didn't have to do too much. I mean, Tyrod Taylor had 3 interceptions, but you got to think that was rust. He hadn't played for over a month, so you got to think that was going to be a big issue there with him. It was just ugly. I felt for whoever had to watch this game, had to get stuck watching this game. It was a small percentage of the country, but I felt bad for them. So I'm hoping that they have red zone, other avenues to watch besides this game. It was just terrible. Moving on.
Yeah, as we move on to one of the best games of the day from yesterday, the Atlanta Falcons, after blowing an 18-point lead, they survived on the Young Hong Koo game-winning field goal, defeating the New Orleans Saints 27-25. Matt Ryan did well yesterday, especially for my fantasy team, even though it's struggling, but that's besides the point. Matt Ryan was 23 of 30, 343 yards and 2 touchdowns. No turnovers. That was the key. Alvin Kamara ran the ball 13 times for 50 yards in the score for the Saints. Cordell Patterson, that name sounds familiar for you Bears fans. He had 6 receptions for 126 yards, including a big catch and run during the last drive for the Falcons, which set up the game-winning field goal. Lakeena, we talked about this on Friday. We thought that the Saints defense would be able to step up. They did in that comeback attempt, but they just couldn't make that one more big play when Atlanta was driving for that game-winning field goal.
We saw MVP Matt Ryan from a few years ago. Let that, especially after they tie after the Saints took the lead they were able, Matt Ryan was able to come back, get them down to deep into territory. They didn't have a run game pretty much. So, it was actually Patterson, 126 receiving yards, I should say. So he's actually being used well. And look, I'm not saying that the Falcons can somehow get in, and they're 3-1 on the road. So, go figure with that. And look, there are people that said earlier they could make a case for perhaps getting one of those for those wild card spots, and that they could. Also, their defense, they did what they had to do. They gave up some big plays. Simeon, he had 2 touchdowns. He looked good in his first start with them. But is he going to be the guy that will take you to the promised land if you're the Saints? I mean, unfortunately, the defense just couldn't make those plays. You've heard Cam Jordan's comments. He only had 1 solo tackle, only 4 sacks, so he didn't have a good game. They didn't have their best game. So, and look, this was a big upset at home. Out on the road for the Falcons, I should say. So they're 4-4. They feel like maybe they could perhaps get in the playoffs and make a play for one of those wild card spots. But again, another solid performance with an upset.
Yeah, it was a great game to watch. I was flipping back and forth between the Dallas game and the New Orleans game. It was both of those games were very good. Well, the New Orleans game was the better game because Dallas got destroyed. But I was watching the New Orleans game yesterday live via my computer. Also, too, the New Orleans Saints missed two-point conversions, so they turned out to be the big difference in the game as well. Let's move over to New York. The New York Football Giants. I wanted to pick them on Friday, Lakeena, but I told you they had to show me a little bit more. Well, they got it done, upsetting the Las Vegas Raiders by the score of 23-16. Derek Carr for the Raiders was 30 of 46 with 296 yards and a touchdown pass. Devontae Booker for the New York Football Giants had 21 carries for 99 yards. Darren Waller for the Raiders had 7 catches and 92 yards. Hunter Renfrow had a touchdown catch for the Raiders as well. The New York Football Giants, they showed yesterday, but they were tough. For the Raiders, they just couldn't make a couple more big plays. I did watch the ending of this game yesterday. The Giants, it seemed like they wanted it a little bit more. And they came out and they played consistently from the first drive of the game to the last play of the game.
It's been like an up and down month for the Raiders. I mean, they come out from a bye and it turns out, just some other stuff that happened. But look, Xavier McKinney had the pick 6. That was a backbreaker for them. And look, I mean, the Giants, again, Daniel Jones didn't make any big mistakes. That's good. And, look, Devontae Booker didn't make any big mistakes. That's a good thing. So Melvin Ingram caught, a touchdown pass. And, they only had 3 field goals. So that was really all. Goodell was 3 for 3 in field goals. So it really didn't have to do too much. And look, I don't know if it's like something that had been happening off the field. The Raiders, they just seemed like very lax. So they can't do the whole it was, daylight savings and blah, blah, blah. But, I think the Giants just wanted more.
One more game before we hit the bottom of the hour break. The New England Patriots destroyed the Carolina Panthers in Charlotte 24-6. The Patriots improved to 5-4. The Panthers dropped to 4-5. Sam Darnold did not have a good day for the Panthers. 16 of 33, 172 yards and 3 picks. One of them was returned for a touchdown. Stevenson for the New England Patriots had 10 carries for 62 yards. Christian McCaffrey led Carolina receiving 4 catches, 54 yards. Lakeena, it was all about defense in the running game for Bill Belichick's New England Patriots.
Yeah, J.C. Jackson had one of those picks 2 of those INTs. One of them was returned for a pick 6. Oh, look, Sam Darnold's been looking like the New York Jets Sam Darnold, which I think if you're a Panthers fan, that should make you a little concerned. He's been playing like that the last, few weeks. And, I know they've had, the Panthers have had injuries and such, but that quarterback position, I think if you're Matt Rule, you're definitely in a tough spot right now. And look, the Patriots, I know some people said that the Patriots could perhaps maybe make a play for one of those wild card spots in the AFC. I mean, they've been improving, but I want to see more. I mean, the schedule for them gets tough. So I'm not going to say, they could probably get one of the wild card spots. Like I said before, they still got to play at Buffalo. I'll get to them in a second because I got a bone to pick with them. And they play the Browns. They actually have a bye. They play the Browns the Sunday after next, and they got a short week after that. They got to play the Falcons too. So I'm still in the show me mode with the Patriots. They still got a pretty tough schedule coming up.
All right, we hit the bottom of the hour as you're listening to the Monday edition live and in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Second City Sports. Sid Lakeena here with you. On the flip side, we'll review the rest of the games from Week 9. We still have a couple more upsets to recap with you guys, and then next hour will be action-packed as well. You're listening to Second City Sports right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
AutomotiveMap.com presents the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago. In Sunday's Major League Baseball action, the Cubs got pounded 9-1 at home against Kansas City. The White Sox shut out on the road 9-0 at Tampa. NFL preseason on Saturday, the Bills hammered the Bears 41-15. Andy Dalton, 11 of 17, passing 146 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. Justin Fields, 9 of 19 for 80 yards. Head coach Matt Nagy says Dalton remains the Week 1 starter and that Fields is ahead of schedule.
When you look at a guy like Justin and you see the things that he's doing, are there some things that he can get better at? Yeah, for sure. That's going to be, we're going to say that 3 years from now. But at the same point in time, for him, there's also things that he's doing better probably than we thought coming into this, which is good too. Like, that's what we want. We want that to happen.
Download the free Score app. Lightning fast updates so you never miss a thing. It's why the Score app is one of North America's most popular sports apps. I'm Chuck Sanders. That's the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago.
Blue Star medicated ointment works fast to relieve the pain and itch of almost any skin irritation.
It's amazing. It's like as soon as you put it on, you can feel it working. We've had Blue Star in the family for years. It works on everything.
I love the cooling sensation on my athlete's foot.
What a relief for my eczema.
Nothing worked on my dry, cracked skin until I tried Blue Star.
Blue Star is great for scalp itch.
Look for the white box with the Blue Star in the first aid section. Feel Blue Star work fast or your money back.
Want to hear something amazing? Discover matches all the cash back you earn on your credit card at the end of your first year, automatically, dollar for dollar, with no limit on how much you can earn. Extra cash? Come on, how amazing is that? In fact, it's even more amazing when you realize all the places where Discover is accepted. 99% of places in the U.S. that take credit cards. So when it comes to Discover, get used to hearing yes more often. Learn more at discover.com/yes. 2021 Nielsen Report. Limitations apply.
Welcome back to Second City Sports on the Monday edition. We're live and in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid Lakeena here with you as we review Week 9 action from the NFL from yesterday right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Lakeena, let's get back into it. The Buffalo Bills dropped a big stinker, losing to the Jacksonville Jaguars by the score of 9-6. I think you were loving this score, Lakeena, with your 1980s football reference. Josh Allen for Buffalo, 31 of 47 for 264 yards, 2 big interceptions. Carlos Hyde ran the ball for 67 yards off of 21 carries for Jacksonville. Stephon Diggs had 6 catches for 85 yards. Lakeena, there was history that was made in this game yesterday. Josh Allen, the defensive end for Jacksonville, sacked Josh Allen, the quarterback for the Buffalo Bills. It was the first time in NFL history since sacks were official stat in 1982 that 2 people with the same name participating in that same play. One name, same namesake, sacking the other, which it was cool. But if you're Buffalo, I don't know, they went to Orlando or Miami to party or what, but they did not have it yesterday. But I guess at the same time, you had to give Jacksonville and Urban Meyer some credit.
Yeah, look, the Bills were a 15.5-point favorite. So if you took the over, you weren't in a very good mood yesterday. It's actually the longest, the largest upset, since 1966. The largest road upset. So, for odds, if anyway, I mean, they just look like, okay, you thought that maybe the Buffalo was going to kind of like get into gear. They didn't. Josh Allen, the quarterback, the Bills quarterback had two interceptions, was sacked 4 times. They couldn't get the running game going. Trevor Lawrence, he got banged up a little bit, but he didn't make any big mistakes. It was, like I said, it was really the defense, the defensive end for the Jags, Josh Allen, who had a strip sack and such. So it was just, it was just another one of those weird games. Jacksonville gets their second win this season. But I know Buffalo fans are just, irate. I saw some of them on my timeline. They're just like, they're not very happy. They fall to 5-3, and it's just, look, I guess one of these weird games that happen in a long season. But it's just a terrible game yesterday for the Bills. Just to, hopefully you can just you burn the tape. So you just leave it alone and just move on and just keep going.
Speaking of moving on, I know most of the nation got a chance to watch the ending of this game. If you had the first game of the Fox doubleheader from yesterday, it was the Baltimore Ravens 34-31 over the Minnesota Vikings in overtime. Justin Tucker with another game-winning field goal for the Baltimore Ravens. I believe this is his second of the season. He had the first one with that 66-yarder against Detroit about a month or so ago. Lakeena, Minnesota jumped out ahead in this game, which I wasn't too surprised, but their defense had a couple of key people out, but they just couldn't hold off Baltimore. Lamar Jackson did everything as usual for the Ravens, 266 yards to 3 touchdown passes. He also ran the ball 21 times for 120 yards. And Marquise Hollywood Brown missed the drops. Well, he didn't drop anything yesterday. 9 catches for 116 yards.
Yeah, Jackson is the first QB in NFL history to record multiple games with 3 passing touchdowns and 100+ rushing yards. He had 106. Jackson's other such game was week 16 against the Browns. In 2019, where he had 3 passing touchdowns and 103 rushing yards. I mean, this is probably one of the games of the day, I think, because back and forth. It was sort of like Minnesota had that big lead, but the Ravens came back. Thanks to Lamar and of course Justin Tucker, Mr. Reliable, hit the game winner. After a few exchanges in overtime. But look, if this is another one of those losses where Minnesota is going to be kicking themselves, you'd probably say they should be like 5-5 and like 3 or something like that, so 3-5 because they let the couple of games slip away. But this is a thrilling game, and look, the Ravens, you'll take the win, and look, you're atop of your division right now, so you'll take it.
Yeah, also, Vikings head coach Mike Zimmer could be in trouble as far as job security is concerned. Now let's move over to the late games. It was the San Diego Chargers of Los Angeles, as we call them on this show. But the Los Angeles Chargers improved their record to 5-3 after getting a 3-point victory on the road at Philadelphia, 27-24. Justin Herbert, 32 of 38, 356 yards and 2 touchdowns. Former Bear running back Jordan Howard had a touchdown off of 71 yards for the Eagles. Devontae Smith had 5 catches for 16 yards and a touchdown. Lakeena, I said the Chargers will be going to the playoffs. I'm still going to stick by that. They won on the road on the East Coast opening day at Washington. If you're a young team trying to get to that next level and try to go to the playoffs, you have to win games on the road in a tough environment. The time difference wasn't an issue yesterday, but even though we know Philadelphia is rebuilding, that's still a tough environment to go to if you're any visiting team. And the Chargers held their own yesterday in the back and forth battle. I did watch some of this game live via my computer.
Yeah.
So the San Diego hung tough and they won.
Yeah. Also, too, that such game you just said, Herbert's stats, there's only 2. It is his 12th career game with a 300-yard game, passing game. Only 2 others have had such that through 2 seasons, their first 2 seasons in the NFL. That's Mahomes and Dan Marino. That's a pretty good list. They have 10. So for 10 each. So, and look, I mean, it was about who had the ball last, and the Chargers had the ball last, and they were able to sneak it away with a game-winning field goal. So probably, like I said before, there's definitely talent in Phillies, but it's going to take them a year or 2. I think the Chargers are trying to find like their rhythm, too, with the new staff. So it's it was actually a pretty good game. We're probably again another one of those games of the day. So look, I think the Chargers, you'll take this win, and this could always help when it comes to tiebreakers, especially even for the AFC West. You never know.
If you want to comment or have a question or a comment for us, any of our topics during today's show, you can do so by going to Sports Zone Chicago on Facebook or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in your question or comments. Lakeena will get them up on the screen for you. But if you decide to do anything stupid, Lakeena will give you the boot. Speaking of giving teams the boot, Fox's America's Game of the Week took place in Kansas City, Missouri yesterday. It was the Chiefs 13, the Green Bay Packers 7. Second-year quarterback Jordan Love got his first start. Didn't look great as we predicted on Friday. He was 19 of 34 for 190 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. For the Kansas City Chiefs, the running game was kind of average, but Darrell Williams had 19 carries for 70 yards. Travis Kelce for Kansas City, their big tight end, he had a drop early in the game, but he rebounded with 5 catches, 68 yards, and the only touchdown for the Chiefs. Lakeena, give Green Bay's defense credit for keeping that team in the game. Mason Crosby, the kicker for the Packers, missed a field goal. I know he missed a field goal. He made an extra point, but I think this was more about the Chiefs' inconsistency on offense than Green Bay yesterday. As we said on Friday, Lakeena, we didn't know what was going to happen with Jordan Love. This was going to be Kansas City's game. Kansas City nearly escaped with the victory. If you're a Kansas City Chiefs fan, you got to be more worried after yesterday than last week against the Giants. Back-to-back home wins, you take them. But the way this team has been playing, you can't be happy. You really can't. I think it's a confidence issue going on in that locker room right now.
Crosby missed 2 field goals, and which loomed large once Love finally got into a rhythm and got that touchdown pass to Lazard. But again, maybe there's maybe the Packers know something we don't. Maybe there's a reason why he hasn't started. And that's why they signed Blake Bortles. So we might see him next week against the Seahawks. If Aaron Rodgers is not able to come back, for that Sunday's game. But again, look, I wasn't impressed. I'm sorry with the Chiefs. I'm sorry I wasn't. I mean, like I said before, this game was more about the Chiefs. And okay, you're 5-4. Yay. I mean, look, you have a lot of problems here. And yeah, your defense looked okay. You were able to, you forced a lot of 3-and-outs with Green Bay. Again, if Crosby had not missed those 2 field goals, who knows? I know just the Snead had an interception. Okay. But there was nothing impressive about this win. Yeah, it was ugly. I know people say, well, a win's a win, but you want to have, look, Bears fans know this. You want to have a good win, against a team that you got at full strength. The Packers weren't at full strength. So you really can't, yes, you'll take the win, but you really can't brag too much about it because you could have, if it was not for some other things that would have happened, you could have easily lost that game. So I'm not, like I said before, I think, if you're a Chiefs fan, yeah, you'll take it, but you're sort of like, you're kind of wondering, like, has been beaten up about it.
Yeah, like I said, like if you're a Chiefs fan, yesterday almost felt like a loss. So the way you played, and they had to, Patrick Mahomes had to have a big pass play to Tyreek Hill to basically seal that game. Who knows what would have happened on that last drive if Green Bay would have gotten the ball back? But I don't know, that's a whole nother situation for a whole nother time. As we continue right here on Second City Sports on the Monday, we're live in the living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid, Lakeena are with you. Let's get through the rest of the schedule, Lakeena, with the last couple of games. In Fox's other America's game of the week, it was the Arizona Cardinals without Kyler Murray, without DeAndre Hopkins. They defeated the San Francisco 49ers 31-17. Jimmy Garoppolo, 28 of 40 for 326 yards and 2 touchdowns. We'll get to him in a minute. James Conner for the Arizona Cardinals had 21 carries, 96 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He had 3 touchdowns overall. And George Kittle, who made his return from injury yesterday, six receptions, 101 yards, and they scored. Lakeena, I watched the majority of this game live via my computer. Couple of things. Jimmy Garoppolo, those stats I just read to you, don't be fooled. The San Francisco 49ers had 4 possessions before scoring their touchdown to close out the first half. Turnover, punt, touchdown. If that doesn't sound like a slow start, I don't know what is. Number 2, San Francisco couldn't run the ball yesterday. Arizona did. Colt McCoy didn't have to do too much. It was the other players from the offense that stepped up for Arizona, and also to Arizona's defense. Shout out to Chandler Jones. I forgot who the former Arizona Cardinal, the former player that died early this year, but he wore a T-shirt under his jersey after passing him on the list for the all-time sacks leader in Cardinals history. I don't know if you saw that, but I thought that was a cool moment. But Arizona's defense got after Garoppolo, especially in that first half yesterday. That first half really set the tone for the Arizona Cardinals. It's the second time make it back-to-back years that the Cardinals defeated the 49ers in that Levi's Stadium. The 49ers, they do not look good right now. And I'll get to what I heard on their post-game show in just a minute. But give Arizona credit. I think they're for real, but they still have a long ways to go. But they did what they had to do yesterday, and they were missing their 2 big stars.
I think they are for real. I'm going to answer that for you, right? I'm going to do a caveat for you right there. I think they are for real. The fact that they were able to win this game without their 2 top stars, without Murray, who's still nursing that high ankle sprain, and also DeAndre Hopkins, who still nursing that hammy. Chandler Jones, left, also with the high ankle sprain. So Connor, saved the day. Well, not saved the day, but he kept the chains moving for them. Benjamin has also had a touchdown run, and I believe he caught a touchdown pass, if I'm not mistaken. So, you've got guys that can kind of hold down the fort. Cole McCoy is a very vulnerable, palpable veteran QB. That's why they brought him in. So in case that happens, of course, Murray got hurt. You've got a guy who is very serviceable and more than capable. He didn't make any mistakes. The defense too, but Bubba Baker had an interception. They forced a lot of 3-and-outs with the 49ers. So they did what they had to do. And once again, I think, overcoming, in this case, without their 2 top stars. So you kind of have to give them credit for that. And look, the 49ers, there are a lot of issues with them. Is it a personnel issue? Is it a coaching issue? It just don't know. I think, look, John Lynch has a lot of decisions to make, because I kind of feel like they're sort of right there, but it's sort of like always something that kind of, keeps them going to the next level. I know some people will blame the Super Bowl hangover, but it's been almost 2 years. So you really can't use that as an excuse anymore. So is it the injuries? Is it, the fact that there's a lot of personnel decisions? There's just so much. And I think the 49ers are kind of like at a crossroads right now.
Yeah, and shout out to our buddy Armando Lara Jr. He said it was Freddie Joe Nunn. Thank you, Armando, for that. So, and that was the T-shirt that Chandler Jones wore on his jersey yesterday, surpassing him for the sacks lead in franchise history. I was watching 49ers post-game live via my computer, on YouTube, NBC Sports Bay Area, Laura Britt, Joe Staley, Dante Whitner, and Takeo Spikes. I found it interesting what Takeo Spikes said last night on their post-game show. And he said, I don't know, this player has been dealing with injuries too the last couple of weeks, but he said maybe it's just time to get Trey Lance in there. I know a lot of 49ers fans want Trey Lance in there for good. And as you mentioned, Lakeena, there's maybe some reasons going back to Jordan Love. That's the reason why that he hasn't gotten the realms, of course, from Aaron Rodgers. But I thought Takeo Spikes brought up a great point yesterday about you need a good shot of jolt in the offense. And it's been a problem. And we talked about it on this show, too, all year long. But the 49ers have been starting out slow in games, and they had to play catch up. And yesterday it was the same thing. They couldn't get away with it this time. Last week they played a mediocre at best, I'm using air quotes here, Bears team. A couple of the plays that went the Bears' way, the Bears would have won that game. But you're the 49ers. You were expected to go to the Super Bowl, or at least back to the playoffs. You're in danger of not doing that now. And I know Kyle Shanahan is stubborn. He wants to stick by Jimmy G, but maybe it's just time. Maybe Takeo Spikes was right yesterday. Maybe it's just time to go to Trey Lance. You really have nothing to play for at this point.
Well, and I would counter that by saying that the Cardinals are better than the Bears. They are. I don't care. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, well, there were a couple of plays here and there. No, they classed up. Of course, once they got the rhythm going, I think the Cardinals are better than the Bears. So let's just be honest. And I think that look, as far as a QB switch. I mean, it's kind of hard to say at this point. I think if the trailer, he should be healthy now. So if he wants to come in and see what he can do, I think he should. I mean, I think like you said, you're 3-5. You're probably not going to go to the playoffs, and the division is way out of reach. So I would say maybe see what kind of rhythm you can get there. And look, I don't, like I said before, I think it's an overall issue with the 49ers, and everything, but. I would say, look, take a chance. Get Lance out there. So we'll see what happens. All right, the Sunday nighter, the Titans. No one really saw this score coming. Had the Titans just dominating pretty much, and it was actually the Titans' defense that was the story. They had a couple of pick sixes. I mean, unfortunately, Matt Stafford looked like the Matt Stafford we saw in Detroit. I don't know what the heck happened there, but. I really kind of like I was very flummoxed. I'm sure folks watching this game were probably flummoxed. I'm sure if you heard the telecast, I'm sure Chris Collinsworth was flummoxed, and also Al Michaels too. So it was just it was definitely a defensive effort there. They have the Titans had 5 sacks. Kevin Byard had a pick 6. David Long Jr. also had an interception. That led to a touchdown. So they scored, I think, 21 unanswered, that kind of, took it to the lead, and they never looked back. And just like I said, struggles. I mean, the defensive struggles for the Rams, Is it just one of the? Is there real concern for the Rams, or is it just one of those games where you say, you know what, just burn the tape and just let's keep it moving?
I'm going to say for the Rams, burn that tape and move on because I still believe they're the best team in the NFC. Well, we'll discuss our personal rankings in just a moment after our studs and duds. But the Rams, watching that game yesterday, at least the ending of it, I said we talked about it a couple weeks ago. They got away with it against Detroit. Detroit punched it in the mouth, but the Rams made a couple more big plays there. They took care of the Houston, Texas on the road last week. So I'm not going to sit here and say they thought that they could just roll over the Titans without Derrick Henry. If that was the case, they got caught with their pants down. But give head coach of the Titans credit, Mike Vrabel. He has these guys believing in themselves. He gets the most out of his players. And you saw that yesterday they had a better game plan of punching the Rams offense in the mouth. And even though Robert Woods had 7 catches for 98 yards for the Rams, I know Darrell Henderson had 55 yards off of 11 carries. You could just tell that the Rams were intimidating. They couldn't really get anything going offensively. They just couldn't get anything going on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, I think that pick 6 5-yard, I think definitely spooked them, and I think that kind of like, wait, what went on here? So, and look, to what you said about Vrabel getting the best out of his players. I mean, look, I think both Biard and Long Jr. said in the post game with Michelle Tafoya that look, he demands a lot. He doesn't really demand on much for his guys. He just because play themselves and be themselves, and that's been what's happening. And they've had a lot of big wins. I mean, the Titans are now 7-2, got one of the best records in probably the best. That's the best record in the AFC. And look, look as for the Rams, should you be concerned? I don't think so. Look, these 17 games you're playing, you're going to have stinkers, 1 or 2 stinkers. That's just how it is. And we'll see once Von Miller is able to play. We'll see. Maybe the defense will be a little bit, will be a lot better than it already is. So I wouldn't worry too much. I mean, we had 5 Super Bowl rematches, with them, the Titans and Rams, of course, from Super Bowl 34. You had the Patriots Panthers from Super Bowl 38. You had the Broncos Cowboys from all the way back in Super Bowl 12, and of course the other Super Bowl with the Packers and Chiefs from the first Super Bowl, and also 2 Jets Colts from the third one. Of course, they kept bringing that up, with the upset, guarantees with Joe Namath, et cetera, et cetera. So, you had 5 Super Bowl matchups. So, it was overall a pretty interesting and a crazy slate in week 9. So just, again, we thought that maybe last Sunday was one of the stranger, weeks, but I think this one probably tops it.
Yeah, you can say that because they have more games that we didn't expect coming as far as upsets are concerned. Last week was just crazy and ugly, but this week was yesterday was a little bit more competitive. And you saw a couple of scores that we didn't see coming, especially with Denver and Dallas. Jacksonville, maybe 1 or 2 of you folks forgot that Jacksonville still played down south, but Denver did their Denver did their thing, but Jacksonville held on Buffalo. I think it was more about Buffalo than Jacksonville, and so I think still I believe Buffalo will be fine. Maybe they'll also come back to buy them at the end of the season as far as tiebreakers are concerned. But if you're Buffalo, you can have your concerns, but I don't think it's all or nothing like Kansas City, like we discussed. Now, no one saw this coming except for yours truly on Friday, at least as far as winners are concerned. The Cleveland Browns destroyed the Cincinnati Bengals. Now the final score I did not see coming, but the the result I saw coming because as we told you guys on Friday, Cleveland, this is going to distract them. OBJ, Odell Beckham Jr. for those of you scoring at home. OBJ, this is going to create chaos in the locker room. No, he was barely there half the time. He was injured most of the time he was there. So I said on Friday, it wasn't going to affect Cleveland. Look what happened yesterday. They came out and set the tone, and Cincinnati just couldn't find themselves offensively. So it was a better day as far as action-wise yesterday than last week. Last week was just crazy because I guess it was a ghost of spirit of Halloween, but yesterday was a little bit better for sure, even with the upsets. Now, I know we have a few minutes left before we close out our first hour. Lakeena, I'll start with your top 3 studs from yesterday's action.
Keeping up with the theme here with Cleveland, I mean, Look, like I said before, I know I picked Cincy, but I wasn't surprised that the Browns would win it. And I told you and Christine that they're the 14th in NFL history to record a passing touchdown, a rushing touchdown, from Nick Chubb, and a defensive touchdown. Of course, the award pick six for 99 yards of 60 plus yards, all in the same game. The other teams to achieve that feat were the 1966 Chiefs, the 1966 Washington, and the 1967 then San Diego Chargers. So just an amazing accomplishment there, amazing feat there with the somewhat upset, but not really because they have the same record. Denver too. I mean, look, I think they just played probably one of their best games in about a month. They're 5-4. Look, I'm not gonna sit here and say that they can get into playoffs because they got a pretty tough schedule, but. I think Vic Ben just got those guys buying in. I think the defense wanted to prove that, look, they weren't just Von Miller. So, you kind of, you definitely got to tip your hat off to them. Let's see. Who's another stud? I'll say the Giants. I mean, again, they didn't really have to do too much. They weren't very flashy. Look, Daniel Jones didn't throw for 300 yards. They didn't have a 100+ yard rush, but look, they did just enough to win that game. And so I think there are other distractions that the Raiders are going through right now. So I think that's probably not helping them. But, look, you got to give the Giants their kudos for pulling off another upset. So, good for them. Those are my studs.
All right, my three studs are Matt Ryan, the quarterback for Atlanta. He had a big game, no turnovers, and they went over the Saints on the road. The Falcons are now 4-4 on the season. Lamar Jackson, Mr. Everything for the Baltimore Ravens with their 3-point win over the Vikings yesterday. So Lamar Jackson is my second stud. My third stud will be second-year quarterback out of Oregon, Mr. Justin Herbert for the Los Angeles Chargers, 356 yards and 2 touchdowns with a tough win on the road at Philadelphia. The Chargers are now 5-3. Those are my three studs.
My bonus stud for me, I'll take Matt Ryan as my bonus stud. Like I said before, you saw that was MVP Matt Ryan. You saw that last drive. So, they have to set him up and get that game winner and get out of New Orleans for an upset. I got a neighbor friend, who went next door. They went to the game because his wife's a big Saints fan. I know she wasn't very happy with that result. But so flip side does Minnesota what's
before you
going
go
on?
to your duds, my bonus dud. Congratulations to Adrian Peterson. He signed with the Titans for the rest of the year. He scored his 125th career rushing touchdown last night. He's my bonus dud. Now you can get to your duds.
Duds Minnesota, finishing up my point. Minnesota, you gave up a big lead against Baltimore. You could have stolen a win. In a real tough environment, but you didn't. So I don't know what happened there. Your defense just couldn't put you kind of took your foot off the gas. So I don't know what happened with you guys. Cincinnati. I mean, I don't know. Look, this is like the second game in the last 3 weeks that you guys have. You wanted people to take you out seriously, but you pull these type of games. Now again, granted, this is your AFC North, divisional, fellow division rival. So that that's fine, but again, put up a bigger effort. Like, come on, a pick six, Joe Burrow, really? You look like your rookie year, and also too, you couldn't get the defenses going, but also give the other Browns credit. They were able to kind of tame Chase, Jamar Chase and the other receivers for the Bengals, so they were able to do that. And Dallas, I don't know if your mind was on other things, or I don't know what the heck happened, but. What someone forgot to tell you that the game started. Look, you can't use the time difference as an excuse. Denver was actually playing earlier, so you can't say, "Well, I know y'all used to playing, 3:00, or 3:25 games or primetime games." But look, the Denver, it was actually 10 a.m. for them, or 9 a.m. I should say. What was your excuse? What's your or 11 a.m. maybe?
11 a.m. Their
11 a.m.
time.
The time difference, whatever.
Yeah.
But, what was their excuse? They didn't use that as an excuse. What was yours? So those are my three duds.
All right, my three duds from yesterday: the Carolina Panthers, Sam Darnold. That's enough said there. Same thing with the Dallas Cowboys. That'll be my bonus dud. You took one of mine away, but that's okay. So let's look for another dud. The Buffalo Bills are only 6 points on the road. That's not good. Of course, I was going to get the Vikings, but I'll leave that alone. You just covered that, Lakeena. My third dud will be the Kansas City Chiefs, as we talked about before. If you're a Kansas City fan, yesterday's game felt like a loss because you barely treaded water, and that's got to be a confidence issue going on there in that locker room.
it's a Super Bowl hangover, I guess. That's the only thing I can think of. And like you would say they've got a pretty light schedule for the next few weeks, but again, they could probably lose a couple of those games. I'll get their schedule up right quick, but they may lose a couple of those games just because, I think that the other teams will see that, maybe the Chiefs. I know the defense looked okay. Like they got the Raiders. No, sorry. They got they go at the Raiders, then they got the Cowboys, then they got the Broncos, and they got the Raiders again the next 4 weeks. With a bye.
That Broncos game now, the way they've been playing, that's not a gimme anymore.
Yeah,
it's not.
None of those games are gimmies. So they could go 0-4, maybe. I don't know.
If that's the case, if they go 0-4 or 1-3, you could kiss their playoff chances goodbye.
Yeah, and also too, yes, it has been a crazy last couple of weeks in the NFL. Armando, you're as usual, you're right on the money, my friend. Also too, I would say Buffalo is my bonus dud. I don't know, like, are they in the twilight zone? I don't know what happened. I don't know, like you said maybe they went to Miami first and they partied too much, or maybe they went to Tampa first. Tampa's a pretty good party city, so I don't know what I don't know what happened there, but yeah. So those are our studs and duds for Week 9 of the NFL, and enjoy the Bears-Steelers game coming up tonight. So we've got a lot to do still with our number 2 coming up, right, Sid?
Yep, we'll talk Bulls and NBA. If you're a Bulls fan, should you jump off a bridge or be patient? And we'll review the best and worst for the NBA this past weekend and give you the schedule for this upcoming week. We have a superstar for a big-time team in the NBA that's dealing with COVID. And we'll review Week 10 of the college football slate from last Saturday, and plus we'll have some other fun stuff as well. You're listening to Second City Sports, live and in living color, right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid, that's Lakeena. Stay right there.
AutomotiveMap.com presents the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago. In Sunday's Major League Baseball action, the Cubs got pounded 9-1 at home against Kansas City. The White Sox shut out on the road 9-0 at Tampa. NFL preseason on Saturday, the Bills hammered the Bears 41-15. Andy Dalton, 11 of 17, passing 146 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. Justin Fields, 9 of 19 for 80 yards. Head coach Matt Nagy says Dalton remains the Week 1 starter and that Fields is ahead of schedule.
When you look at a guy like Justin and you see the things that he's doing, are there some things that he can get better at? Yeah, for sure. That's going to be, we're going to say that 3 years from now. But at the same point in time, for him, there's also things that he's doing better probably than we thought coming into this, which is good too. Like, that's what we want. We want that to happen.
Download the free Score app. Lightning fast updates so you never miss a thing. It's why the Score app is one of North America's most popular sports apps. I'm Chuck Sanders. That's the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago.
Blue Star medicated ointment works fast to relieve the pain and itch of almost any skin irritation.
It's amazing. It's like as soon as you put it on, you can feel it working. We've had Blue Star in the family for years. It works on everything.
I love the cooling sensation on my athlete's foot.
What a relief for my eczema.
Nothing worked on my dry, cracked skin until I tried Blue Star.
Blue Star is great for scalp itch.
Look for the white box with the Blue Star in the first aid section. Feel Blue Star work fast or your money back.
Want to hear something amazing? Discover matches all the cash back you earn on your credit card at the end of your first year, automatically, dollar for dollar, with no limit on how much you can earn. Extra cash? Come on, how amazing is that? In fact, it's even more amazing when you realize all the places where Discover is accepted. 99% of places in the U.S. that take credit cards. So when it comes to Discover, get used to hearing yes more often. Learn more at discover.com/yes. 2021 Nielsen Report. Limitations apply.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Second City Sports, live on the Monday, live and in 11 color, right here on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Miss Lakeena McGee. I am Sydney Brown. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, that's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow me at Keena McGee on the Twitter and at Keena_McGee on the IG.
And if you have a comment or a question for us during any of our topics on today's show, you can go to Sports Zone Chicago on Facebook or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Just type in your question or comment in the comment section. Lakeena will get them up on the screen for you. But if you decide to troll or do something stupid, Lakeena will give you the Beer Lane Beer boot.
Bye-bye.
I love saying that. But we love you guys. So we've been getting great feedback so far. Lakeena, let's kick off hour number 2 with some Bulls talk as we talk basketball. For the second time last week, the Bulls dropped another game to the Philadelphia 76ers last Saturday at home at the United Center. This time it was by the score of 114 to 105. Lakeena, I saw you made a comment on your Twitter. Also, our guy Josh Hicks from War Media, and he's an NBA panelist for our shows here on Second City Sports. He pointed this out as well, and we talked about this last week. Against better teams, you cannot start out slow and expect to come back. I saw the same damn thing happen last Wednesday at Philadelphia. You thought they would have learned by now, but the same thing happened last Saturday. Now, I'm not going to sit here and jump off a bridge to say that this season's over and this team is overrated. I'm not going to do that. I don't even have rose-colored glasses on, okay? But this team, still be patient. And this team, so we told you, they still have flaws, but this team is still going to be good. But this is just going through the growing pains right now, and they have to learn how to win on a consistent basis, which I think they will do. I know they have a game against Brooklyn at the UC tonight at 7 p.m. We'll give you a quick preview of that game coming up in just a moment. But this Bulls team is talented. They should be a little bit better, but we haven't even played the Milwaukee Bucks yet, and it's going to be a challenge when when we meet up against them. But the Philadelphia 76ers looks like they're going to be a thorn on our backside for this year. Heaven forbid we meet them in the playoffs this year. But going back to Saturday's game, it was nice to see that fighting spirit in the Bulls. But Philadelphia just made a few more shots, especially from three-point range in the fourth quarter. The Bulls struggled from beyond area code range all night. Philadelphia just made some bigger shots down the stretch. And Joel Embiid, we have some news on him as well in just a moment. We'll give you just a moment. But Joel Embiid had a great game. He carried the 76ers through. The Bulls just had no answer for him.
Oh, good Lord. And I think he's now 9-0 against the Bulls in his career. So, you know, that also to Furkan Korkmaz, who I know some people have seen his name on the score sheets, and people are like, okay, how is he able to apparently he had 24 off the bench. He averaged like 20 points when the Sixers play the Bulls. So I don't know how he turns into turns into Chris Mullin when he plays for the Bulls, I guess. But and look, I saw let me get Amando's comment up. Bulls are a very good team, but not a great team. I would say let's wait on that. Let's not say that, oh my God, they're not they're not a great team. I disagree with that. Remember, you don't have Patrick Williams. The good news is that Kobe White has been cleared, for contact. So he has a lot of lights, workouts and light contact. So hopefully maybe before the month's over with, he'll be back. But look, I mean, the Sixers have had our number, the Bulls number, I should say. I mean, they hit some big shots, their 3-pointer. They actually got it down to like 4. But again, they made big shots late. The Sixers did 7 for 29 for a 3-point range. That's not going to do it. I thought Levine, Zach was 3 for 10. Remember, he's still playing with one hand. Yeah, I know. Vucevic was only 1 for 7. I'm already hearing some folks say, "Well, Vucevic is like Carlos Boozer," and I'm like, "Okay, let's slow down here, okay?" If you remember when he first came on, on the team last year, it was via trade. He didn't have all these other guys around him. He didn't have DeRozan. He didn't have the ball. And they couldn't practice very much because of COVID. So let's slow down on that, because I saw a certain sports radio host who was a big Bulls fan. I'm not going to say who it was, Mark Silverman, who said that who called him Nikola Boozer, which I'm like, wait, really? You're really going to do him like that? And I've seen other people say the same thing. Look, Bulls Twitter is like the worst, because they're always like, it's up and down with them. There's no in between between those guys.
Crap and Kirk. Sorry.
yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, I saw.
We
that
love
too.
them, but
yeah, it's just crazy. Look, do the Bulls need to get out of the habit of going to slow starts? Yes. Do I think they can still get it together? Yes. Remember, folks, we're only 3 weeks into the season. We're only 9 games in, folks. Let's not do anything stupid. Let's not say anything insane. To say that, oh well, this team sucks, or this team's not a great team, or this team's overrated. Blah blah blah. Give them some time, okay? So I'm just I'm just like flabbergasted on these comments right now.
I guess that's Bulls fans ringing your doorbell right now, Lakeena. So I'm sure she's gonna go out there and scare them away like trick or treaters on Halloween. But a couple of encouraging signs that I saw from Saturday's loss against the 76ers. The bench actually played well. They had a total of over 22 points coming off the bench. That was better than their performance last Wednesday when they lost to Philadelphia the first time in on the road, and the bench didn't play well in terms of scoring. But last Saturday, Derrick Jones, who they picked up via trade, he was with the Heat previously. He played 18 minutes and scored 12 points and grabbed 4 rebounds. Derrick Jones has been getting a whole lot of run over these last few games, and I like the athleticism in his effort off the bench. So he did well, I thought, on Saturday. He had a couple of Showtime dunks in there as well. So he's bringing that energy from a guard position coming off the bench. Tony Bradley Jr., another piece that we picked up in the offseason. As I said before, with the injuries to Patrick Williams, someone's got to step up defensively coming off the bench as far as being a big guy, because we lack in size. Tony Bradley Jr. in 12 minutes of action, he didn't score much. He had 4 points, but he grabbed 7 key rebounds. If he can keep up those statistics coming out of the bench, I think the Bulls will be fine in terms of defensively from the interior, because lack of size is what the Bulls lack right now, especially with the injury to Patrick Williams and the lack of defensive consistency from Nikolai Vucevic. So Tony Bradley Jr. Picked it up a whole lot better last Saturday. Also, Alex Caruso continues to play well. He saw 32 minutes of action with 9 points and 4 assists. And Lakeena, I like this Bulls bench, but it's just that the starters going to have to be more consistent. As I said, Tony Bradley Jr., hopefully this will be a building block for him to get more minutes coming off the bench, especially if Vucevic continues to start off slow. Lakeena's is muted, so we'll get to see if she can unmute herself. Yes,
My bad, folks. Sorry about that.
You listen to Sports Zone Chicago, Second City Sports. Lakeena, you were making your point before you were unmuted yourself.
Sorry, but yeah,
you were going for a minute. I was like, no, I can hear her.
Oh, sorry about that, folks. But yeah, I mean, look, I like the make of this Bulls bench. You got Derrick Jones Jr. I think Bradley Jr. will get his looks. I know. Io's gonna have his growing pains. As a rookie, he only scored 2 points. I really like Alex Caruso. He kind of like makes gets the offenses going. So I think that helps a little bit as well. So and I think that I'm not jumping off the ledge. I've seen some people do that. I think patience, folks. The season just started. It's only started 3 weeks ago. All right, we're only 9 games in. So for folks just to say that, they're jumping off the bandwagon, I'm out of here, like these this team sucks or whatever, this team's overrated. Chill. All right, just chill. If I were the Bulls right now, I'd rather be the Bulls than some other teams right now that are having bad starts. Just saying. So I'm just gonna
we'll get to them in a minute. You listening to Second City Sports right here on Sports Zone Chicago. We're live and in living color. Sid, Lakeena here with you as we talk Bulls and NBA. Lakeena, let's get to tonight's game. The Bulls are 6-3. They'll host the Brooklyn Nets, who are 7-3. That game will take place tonight at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, locally here on NBC Sports Chicago, nationally on NBA TV. For those of you that are happy to listen to us in the tri-state area, you can watch that game on the Yes Network. Lakeena, I saw the Brooklyn Nets play the last couple of games. They are starting to look good. We won't talk about Kyrie, assuming that he's not going to play at all this year because of other reasons. But Kevin Durant is starting to turn it around a little bit. LaMarcus Aldridge is starting to get that jumper back into his game. Blake Griffin actually starting to look good. Patty Mills, as we told you guys in the offseason, he's going to be a difference maker, the former San Antonio Spur. He's actually shooting the lights out from 3-point range right now. You saw that game last Wednesday against Atlanta on ESPN. You saw that. So it's going to be another tough one for the Bulls, but I expect them to bounce back and have a great effort. If they have a strong first quarter, if they don't trail by 10 points or more, they should be able to win this game. It's not going to be easy, but I believe they'll have a better effort tonight, especially at home.
Yeah, look at that Raptors, that Raptors game, their last game a couple of days ago. I mean, look, everyone scored, I know he had, a couple of other his little yips, but James Harden had 28 and 10 boards. I know some people were a little buzz about that. Blake Griffin's starting to find his role there. He had a double. Patty Mills showing folks that he still got it. He had 13 off the bench, has a couple of big threes, so to hold off the Raptors. So look, this is gonna again, it's gonna be a tough one. The Bulls. So we're in the tough part of their schedule. So it is. Some of these games are for the next week or two are going to be very tough for the Bulls. But again, this could be a good measuring stick game. See where you are against those top teams like the Nets and the Bucks. So will the Sixers? We'll talk. Sixers have a bigger issue, so we'll talk about that in a second. But look, I think if you could get a good effort, don't go down by 10 or 12 points. You won't be able to do that against the Nets, because especially if Durant's leading the charge, you will not. You'll probably lose by about 20 points. So if they get a good effort tonight, I think folks could ease up a little bit. So I think this should be a fun one tonight. And I'm glad it's getting the national love. Unless you have NBA TV, but I'm glad it's getting some national love. So this should be an entertaining one down at the UC.
Yes, it should be a whole lot of fun. And looking at this Bulls schedule coming up for this week, as you mentioned, Lakeena, they host the Brooklyn Nets tonight. They host the Dallas Mavericks on Wednesday. We'll talk about them in just a moment. They'll host the Dallas Mavericks. Luka Doncic making his only visit to Chicago for this year. And then they go out on the road for the West Coast for the next week or so. They'll start off at Golden State on Friday. And then, of course, next Sunday, they'll play the Clippers. And then this time next week, they'll play the Los Angeles Lakers. And I think they have another game or two in there as well before they make their return back home. So as you mentioned, Lakeena, it's put up or shut up for the Bulls. Of course, this is not the NFL you play once a week, but we'll get it. As we said before, you'll get a true measure stick of what this Bulls team is with a little bit over a month with games played into this young season.
Yeah, should be. Look, these games, again, these are all good measuring stick games to see how you play against Golden State. We'll get to them in a second. They've been playing very well, and some of the other teams too they got coming up. So it should be a lot. It should be a lot of fun. Look, if you can be at 500, I think you'll be in good shape if you're the Bulls.
Yeah, you should be at 500 or better by the time the next couple of weeks come around, especially after this West Coast road trip that starts later this week is wrapped up. You're listening to Second City Sports live and in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid Lakeena here with you. Lakeena referred to the breaking news that came out just a couple of hours ago. Philadelphia 76ers superstar and big man Joel Embiid has tested positive for COVID. He is, according to reports, he's going to miss the next several games coming up. I know Philadelphia has a game tonight against the New York Knicks up there in Philadelphia at 6 p.m. Joel Embiid had a great game against the Bulls on Saturday, but now with them with having Ben Simmons on the shelf, they're looking for a trading partner as we speak to move out Mr. Simmons. Head coach Doc Rivers has some work to do, as we mentioned before. Danny Green didn't play on Saturday against the Bulls. They're still missing a couple other guys, Seth Curry and Karl Rance, who had a couple big shots from 3-point range on Saturday to wrap up that game in Chicago. It's going to be about the role players for Philadelphia. Who's going to step up? Because as we said before the season started, they're supposed to be the challengers to Milwaukee and Brooklyn as far as Eastern Conference supremacy. But now, if these reports are true that Embiid is going to miss several games, what the exact number of those games are, we don't know. But the more games that he missed, even though it's early in the season, if you're Philadelphia, you cannot afford to fall too far behind.
Yeah, I saw that news a couple of hours ago. Of course, Embiid is now in safety protocols, health and safety protocols. So, I mean, look, I'm not going to get into a whole little vaccine, all that stuff. I'm not going to get into all that, but you just got to do what you got to do. You got to follow the protocols. You got to follow the rules. If whether you're vaccinated. As I'm sure, some cities are stricter than others, but if it's true that Embiid may miss maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks, that's not a good sign. I mean, you're dealing with other players that are in COVID protocols. I think that one of their assistants it's also still in, in health and safety protocols. So, especially you got cold and flu season coming up. This is going to be a big issue there for some of these teams, whether or not whoever is vaccinated or not. So let's just be careful. And And look, we'll see what happens as this unfolds because because they got a pretty tough schedule coming up. The Sixers do, and since the Bees going to be out, they got Milwaukee tomorrow. That's the first of the TNT games, so that's big.
Yeah, as I mentioned, they have the Knicks tonight, and the Knicks. We'll get to their game from last night. There's some concerns there, but that's still another tough game within your conference, within your division. So Philadelphia has a tough road ahead of them for the next week or two, however long Embiid is out. Let's go over to the best and worst from the weekend in the association. Lakeena, I'll start off. The Golden State Warriors. They defeated the Houston Rockets by the score of 120 to 107. Steph Curry has a new haircut and a new attitude. He's starting to shoot the ball well again after struggling to start this early season. The Warriors are I think on the 4-game winning streak at home. I know they won their last 2 games at home in front of a national audience last week, beating both Charlotte and New Orleans without Zion Williamson. But I really like this Warriors team. I'm not the biggest fan of this. I don't hate them either, but I kind of respected what they do. Jordan Poole is starting to play well right now. Gary Payton II, it was nice to see his dad in the stands last night sitting next to Bob Myers.
That was cool.
I don't know if you caught that, but
I saw a little bit of that. Yeah, that was he was like a big kid. You gotta love. You love seeing that.
Yeah, and so Gary Payton II has been getting some run over these last 3 or 4 or 5 games. So, and we talked about it with our guest Kylan Mills from KRON, Chicago girl. She's a news anchor out there in the Bay Area. This Warriors team, as we said, they could get off to a good start. Maybe they could be a surprise team as far as finishing top 4, top 5. We still have a long way to go, but they can stay where they're playing right now until they get Klay Thompson back towards Christmas. Yeah, they could be a dangerous team. I'm not still going to put them up there as title contenders just yet because we still have a long way to go. But right now they're playing very well. You have to give them props.
And I do give him props. I mean, I think, look, Steph is still, shooting like Steph, like I said, at his age. So that's, I think that should be, committed. Like you said, Jordan Poole's looked really good. He's becoming a really good, reliable. Of course, he's coming off a 6th Man of the Year award, so he's showing that he's actually a pretty good, starter as well. And Draymond's still Draymond. I know he's lost a step. He's over 30 now, so you got to think he's lost a couple of steps. But again, you know what? That they still look great. Andrew Wiggins is becoming very productive. Otto Porter Jr. There's a name we haven't heard in a while.
Right, he had a good game last night too. I was like, okay.
I forgot he signed with the Warriors over the offseason. Like, oh yeah, that's right, he did.
Yeah.
So So look, I like this. I want to see what this Warriors team do. Can they keep it up though, even when Klay comes back? I mean, they got the best record in the NBA right now. So. Again, where is Thompson going to fit in all this? So we'll just wait and see.
Yes. And so the Warriors are looking good right now. The Houston Rockets, I know they lost both their games over the weekend at Denver and at Golden State last night, but Kevin Porter Jr., I think, could be a starting piece for the Rockets. I know Jalen Green's just starting to get into the fold, their stud rookie first-round draft pick. Give Stephen Silas some credit here, even though we don't expect Houston to win many games this year. They've been competitive over the last week or so. That second game last Tuesday against the Lakers, they nearly had a chance to steal that one. We'll get to the Lakers in just a moment, but it came down to the wire last Saturday against the Nuggets on the road. I watched the majority of that one. Denver got away with that one, and of course, last night, if it wasn't for a 20-2 run by the Warriors at the end of the third quarter, just maybe the Rockets could have given themselves a chance to steal one in Oakland, but it wasn't meant to be. But the Rockets showed well for themselves for being a young team. Now. Let's. I'm not going to hold off the inevitable. The Los Angeles Lakers, Lakeena. LeBron James is going to miss. So he's sitting out for this upcoming week. Hopefully he'll sit out against the Bulls next week. I doubt it, but that's a whole nother issue. But LeBron James is dealing with an injury right now.
He loves playing the Bulls. So yeah, he's not.
I know. But
he's not going to miss that game.
Yeah, but Anthony Davis had a quote-unquote stomach virus on Saturday. He only barely played 2 minutes in the loss against Portland. He exited the game, didn't come back. The Lakers did not look good against Portland. Now, Portland the night before defeated, that was last Friday, they defeated the Indiana Pacers. Damian Lillard scored under 10 points. I think he scored a total of 4 points, I believe.
Yep.
But on Saturday, Damian Lillard had 25 points for the game. The entire Lakers starting five had 24. That tells you something.
Yeah.
Now, I did get a chance to watch the Lakers post-game show on Spectrum Sports that via my computer. Their analysts are James Worthy and Big Shot Bob Horry. And I thought James Worthy brought up a good point. And he said, you got to you don't expect the Lakers to be where they are as far as record-wise, but team chemistry is going to take some time, like we said about the Chicago Bulls earlier. But I thought Robert Horry brought up another great point, especially with the Lakers losing 2 games to OKC so far this year and losing to Portland the way they did by 20-plus points. Defense is about will and desire. And you got to come out with a better effort. And I definitely did not see that from the Lakers on Saturday. If you're a Lakers fan, and despite injuries, you got to be worried about the rest of that roster and just showing up and not giving any effort for 48 minutes. And I thought both those guys brought up great points.
Yeah, I think I heard a little bit of that, and look, I don't know what to say. I mean, you can't blame all on LeBron not being there. I mean, I don't know what more can LeBron do, and excuse me, and look, like you said, 2 points. Like I said, they only scored like 25 points. Yeah, that's as much as Dave scored by himself. Yeah. So. And look, I don't know what to say about this Lakers team. Is it a coaching thing? People are already saying that maybe Frank Vogel should be out. Well, who's his top assistant? Is he going to do any better? I mean, I just think that, I wish we had somebody on to talk about this, because I kind of feel like they're not meshing. Some guys are mentally not there. You got some guys that, don't want to play nice with each other. It's just, look, if we get into like maybe about a month into the season and then they're still not, meshing well, heads are going to be starting to roll with the Lakers. So, but, on the flip side, though, with the Clippers have actually started to, kind of pull it together a little bit. They had a nice win against a very good young Charlotte team yesterday, 120-116. They're 5-4 right now. They actually have a better record than the Lakers do at this point. PG, of course, had 20 points leading the way. Terrence Mann, had 17 off the bench. Also, Luke Kennard had 18 off the bench. So they got some bench contribution as well. So do you think the Clippers have turned the corner?
Let's hope so. As you mentioned, Terrence Mann, who got that contract in the offseason due to his performance in last year's playoffs, especially after the injury to Kawhi Leonard. I think they can turn it around. Paul George actually has some horses next to him outside of Kawhi. And Luke Kennard's been playing very well over these last couple of weeks. So I think the Clippers can turn it around here.
I think you can. What else kind of caught your eye over the weekend?
The Washington Wizards beating the Milwaukee Bucks yesterday, 101-94. Bradley Beal, Montrezl Harrell, Kyle Kuzma had a goaltending waived due to a call from New York on replay yesterday. If you're a Milwaukee Bucks fan, you should be a little concerned, but not too concerned because you have injuries right now. But if you're a Milwaukee Bucks fan, you're not too worried. If it's the Washington Wizards for real. I'm not sure. Check in with me about this time next month. But right now, they're off to a hot start. The Cleveland Cavaliers, as we mentioned at the top of the segment, they defeated the New York Knicks 126-109 yesterday. Ricky Rubio with a career high 37 points. Where did that come from?
I know, right? I mean, look, I think Rubio's still got a little bit left in the tank. I mean, look, I think if you're that's just a great performance by him, and look, I think Cleveland. I think Cleveland will cause fits. I think they'll be better than they've been the last few years. I mean, they're 7-4 right now. Do I think they're for real? I mean, again, same thing with the Wizards. Check back with me in 3 weeks. But they pull out some pretty big upsets. So, and look, they've got some great contributions from various young guys. Evan Mobley, who I didn't know was still around at 26. Jared Allen, not the former defensive end, Jared Allen. Jared Allen, the basketball player. He had 18
the brother with
points.
the big afro.
Right? Yeah, that's he's a guy to recognize. But also too, like you said, Rubio with 37 off the bench, a career high for him. I mean, look, again, I don't think Knicks fans should be too worried. I know Knicks fans are probably freaking out. Oh, we're supposed to be. Cleveland's a little bit better this year, folks. So let's not freak out if you lose to Cleveland, but. The Knicks, it's a long season. You're going to have a couple of these games where you're not going to play very well. So if you're a Knicks fan, you shouldn't be too concerned.
Going back to last Saturday, the Dallas Mavericks defeated the Boston Celtics 104-107. Luka Doncic with the game-winning three-pointer out from the left corner pocket. Almost 3 Celtics players on him. I did watch some of this game I flipped between that and the Bulls game. The Celtics played hard. This was actually their first losses losing to the Bulls last Monday. Dallas has just like last year, they got to a bad start, but looks like head coach Jason Kidd hopefully is finally turned the quarter for their franchise. Luka Doncic was the man again. Once again, this is the second time in less than a calendar year that the Luka Doncic beat the Celtics on the last second shot. These two teams will meet again in Boston later on this season. They'll be in March.
Yeah, that should be an interesting one there. I'm sure the Celtics are gonna want their revenge in that respect. But also
Speaking of the
Jason Tatum's going to be out for a few weeks because of a hamstring injury. So he injured his hamstring in practice. So he's going to be out for a couple of weeks. So Celtics, Marcus Smart, you're going to have your wish. You're going to have more shots at the ball. So to shoot the ball. So you got your wish, dude. Tatum's going to, Brown's going to be out for Julian Bosch is going to be out for a couple of weeks. So you'll get your wish, my friend.
And also, too, last Saturday, the Phoenix Suns defeated the Atlanta Hawks 121-117. I got a chance to check out some of that action. Phoenix, it looks like they starting to turn around after going through some hiccups here and there. Atlanta's still trying to find themselves, but it looks like Phoenix, despite the controversy that we mentioned on Friday, they're still soldiering on. And they're starting to find their stride. You're listening to Second City Sports right here on Sports Zone Chicago. We're live and in living color along with Lakeena McGee. I am Sydney Brown. We hit the bottom of the hour. After this time out, we'll review the schedule for this upcoming week as far as marquee matchups in the National Basketball Association. Also, we'll review the top games from college football from last Saturday in Week 10, and we'll give some love to the Chicago Blackhawks. Yes, there's some news on them as well. You're listening to Second City Sports live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
AutomotiveMap.com presents the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago. In Sunday's Major League Baseball action, the Cubs got pounded 9-1 at home against Kansas City. The White Sox shut out on the road 9-0 at Tampa. NFL preseason on Saturday, the Bills hammered the Bears 41-15. Andy Dalton, 11 of 17 passing, 146 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. Justin Fields, 9 of 19 for 80 yards. Head coach Matt Nagy says Dalton remains the Week 1 starter and that Fields is ahead of schedule.
When you look at a guy like Justin and you see the things that he's doing, are there some things that he can get better at? Yeah, for sure. That's going to be, we're going to say that 3 years from now. But at the same point in time, for him, there's also things that he's doing better probably than we thought coming into this, which is good too. Like, that's what we want. We want that to happen.
Download the free Score app. Lightning fast updates so you never miss a thing. It's why the Score app is one of North America's most popular sports apps. I'm Chuck Sanders. That's the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago.
Blue Star medicated ointment works fast to relieve the pain and itch of almost any skin irritation.
It's amazing. It's like as soon as you put it on, you can feel it working. We've had Blue Star in the family for years. It works on everything.
I love the cooling sensation on my athlete's foot.
What a relief for my eczema.
Nothing worked on my dry, cracked skin until I tried Blue Star.
Blue Star is great for scalp itch.
Look for the white box with the blue star in the first aid section. Feel Blue Star work fast or your money back.
Want to hear something amazing? Discover matches all the cash back you earn on your credit card at the end of your first year, automatically, dollar for dollar, with no limit on how much you can earn. Extra cash? Come on, how amazing is that? In fact, it's even more amazing when you realize all the places where Discover is accepted. 99% of places in the U.S. that take credit cards. So when it comes to Discover, get used to hearing yes more often. Learn more at discover.com/yes. 2021 Nielsen Report. Limitations apply.
Welcome back to Second City Sports live on a Monday right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid and Lakeena here with you as we wrap up today's show. We're going to give you the key games coming up for the NBA in just a moment. Also, we're going to review some key games from college football from last Saturday, and we have some news on the Blackhawks. I know, Lakeena, you're trying to give them the talk to the hand treatment, but we must talk about them for at least a minute or two to wrap up today's show.
I actually watched a couple of Hawks games this weekend, so we'll get to them in a second. But yeah, because yeah, of course they're doing well, we'll get to it when we get to them. But yeah, let's get to these NBA games. Of course, starting tonight. New York and Philly. We talked about it earlier. No Joel Embiid for the Sixers. I'm sure New York's going to want to bounce back, from that loss a couple of days ago. So should be a fun one there. Also, too, of course, we talked about the Brooklyn, the Bulls. That's going to be the first game of that NBA TV doubleheader. Minnesota and Memphis, that should be a fun one. Minnesota's been playing a little bit better. New Orleans and Dallas, that should be a good one. Miami and Denver, our girl Alana Techire, I think she'll be stayed up to watch this game. That's at 8 o'clock. Atlanta versus Golden State at 9. Also, too, Phoenix and Sacramento should be a good one. Also, too, the second half of that NBA TV doubleheader. Of course, Charlotte and Los Angeles, can they get it together? We'll have to wait and see.
Yes, and Anthony Davis played in. I will see about that for the Lakers. So a good schedule for Monday in the NBA, and especially if that Bears game gets out of hand. But we'll see about that. Going to tomorrow's games, of course, the NBA on TNT doubleheader. We have the Milwaukee at Philadelphia. Of course, no Joel Embiid for Philadelphia. The Hawks and the Jazz will play at 8 o'clock. And the second half of that TNT doubleheader for tomorrow will be Portland at Los Angeles to take on the surging Clippers.
Damian Lillard versus Paul George, always fun with those two former Olympic teammates. Battle it out. That should be a good one there tomorrow night. The Wednesday you got Washington and Cleveland. That should be a good one there.
Two surprising teams in the Eastern Conference, perhaps in the whole NBA.
Yes, both 7-4, so that should be a fun one there. Brooklyn and Orlando. Orlando will always give teams fits, so Brooklyn shouldn't take that game lightly. Toronto and Boston, again, no Jaylen Brown for about a couple of weeks. Milwaukee and New York, a fun one there. That's a 6:30 game on Wednesday. Also the first day of that doubleheader. I was surprised ESPN picked this game, but it shouldn't be that bad. I mean, Detroit and Houston. I mean,
it's a battle of the rookies. Your guy Cade Cunningham versus Jalen Green.
Yeah, that's probably
why.
That's why. Yeah, that's exactly why. That's the only reason why. Of course, Dallas. Luka's only visit to the UC this year, and Chicago. That should be a fun one there between those two teams. Charlotte and Memphis, that should be a fun one. Indiana, who have actually been playing pretty well lately. Indiana has, so they face Denver. Portland and Phoenix, that's an 8 o'clock game. That should be a fun one. Minnesota and Golden State, that's a 9 o'clock game. Also, too, at 9 o'clock, the second half of the ESPN doubleheader, you got Miami and the Lakers. So that should be another fun one. I'm sure our girl Alana will be hooked onto this game as well.
She'll be doing a lot of tweeting doing that one since that Wednesday game will be on ESPN. And looking ahead to Thursday, the NBA TV doubleheader Thursday at 6 p.m. Toronto at Philadelphia. Once again, no Joel Embiid. At 8 o'clock, it'll be Indiana at Utah. And then at 9:30, the Heat and the Clippers will get it on from the Staples Centers. Jimmy Butler versus Paul George. That should be a whole lot of fun.
Again, no TNT Thursday games till after the football season. They basically surrender and say, you know what? We don't get good ratings, and we'll just put the ratings on NBA. We'll just put our games on NBA TV for right now until January. So for those of you who are wondering why we haven't seen any TNT Thursday night TNT games lately, that's why the last couple of weeks. So there you go.
And that should look ahead to the NBA schedule for this week. You're listening to Sports Zone Chicago, Second City Sports City, Lakeena here with you. If you want to make a comment on any of our topics during today's show, you can do so by going to Sports Zone Chicago on Facebook, or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Place your questions or comments in the comment section. Lakeena will get them up on the screen for you. But if you decide to do anything or say anything out of touch or stupid, Lakeena will probably give you the boot.
Bye-bye.
Let's go over and review some of the key games from last weekend in college football, as my cheat sheet just went blank. But one score that I wanted to discuss with you, Lakeena, it seems like this team barely got by, but I know they're on the outside looking in terms of the college football playoff. It was Ohio State over Nebraska 26-17.
Yeah, they really needed their defense to pull that out for them. And look, I think, it just, am I impressed with Ohio State? No. I mean, CJ Stroud had 2 interceptions, so that's, you poor Nebraska. I mean, you thought maybe it probably may have had him on the ropes, but they didn't. They pulled off a big play late. They couldn't get through. So Another tough loss for Nebraska. But you know what? I think if you're Ohio State, you're fine with folks not really noticing you. So hey, it's cool.
Georgia had no problems getting by Missouri 43-6. North Carolina upset Wake Forest 58-55. A PlayStation score.
Yeah, that was a crazy game, from start to finish. And unfortunately, Wake Forest, bye to them and then the ranks of the undefeated. So they've had probably one of their best seasons in a while. And we'll get to another team that suffered a top 10 loss. Actually, we'll get right to it. I know. I think Mac Brown, really needed this win for for him and his team psyche, because they have underachieved this year. So a win like this, especially kind of like one of those sort of grinded out, scrappy wins, you'll take it. Sam Howell, who a lot of people thought could be back in the Heisman race. We'll see. 216 yards and a touchdown. Ty Chandler was the story there. 213 rushing yards and 4 touchdowns. Just unbelievable. And like I said before, it was definitely a video game. Sean Hartman for Wake Forest. I mean, he was being considered for the Heisman. Sam Hartman, I should say, who people thought were considered for a Heisman Trophy, and he probably could still be, but he had 2 interceptions, including a couple of late ones that led to that North Carolina comeback. So, a tough loss for Wake Forest. But yeah, if you're like you said, if you're Mac Brown, you get another upset against a top 10 team.
Speaking of upsets, let's go to the Big Ten. Number 20, the Minnesota Golden Gophers lose at home by 8 to the Illinois Fighting Illini. Am I reading this correctly? Brett Bielema actually has his kids motivated. They won their last 2 road games against Wright DePaul.
Of course they did. Of course. Seems only fitting, right, that Illinois would. Of course, they have a stinker against Rutgers, after beating Penn State. Then they come back and beat a top 20 team in Minnesota, keeping them from, now they don't control their own destiny in the Big Ten West. So I don't know. The defense intercepted Tanner Morgan, twice, and Chase Brown had 147 yards. It was just from what I heard, it was an ugly game. I didn't watch it because I didn't think I needed to, but
I didn't either.
It was a pretty ugly game. I think Minnesota tried to get it together, but I think Morgan had one of those interceptions with late that probably could have stopped the drive, that probably could have gotten Minnesota to tie it. So now they no longer control their own destiny in the Big Ten West. We'll tell you who in just a second. But another upset too in the top 10. Purdue did again. This time they beat Michigan State at home. And Aiden O'Connell had 3 touchdown passes, 536 yards. 536 yards. So it was definitely an air raid attack. Look, Jeff Brom has actually gotten some of these top 10 teams numbers. The second straight, win against the top team is overall 6 win against the top 10 team. So just remarkable. They were able to, the defense, for the Boilermakers, they came in, they had a couple, had an interception, that stalled drives for Sparty. They were able to tame, Kenny Walker Jr., which is not a tough task. I mean, they did what they could. He still rushed for 136 yards, but they stopped them when they needed to. So another big win for the Boilers. So Boiler up.
Yeah, shout out to our buddy Armando. The Illini played Greasy D and the all ran all over Minnesota. Yeah, if you do that the majority of the time, you will win your share of ball games. Let's go to ACC action. The University of Miami, the U. You guys can see on my screen, try to do a U, but the U defeated Georgia Tech 33-30. As we mentioned, Lakeena, Miami has been having injury issues all season long, but they're right around 500. I know you mentioned their head coach could be on the hot seat, but they've been showing up these last couple of weeks.
Yeah, and I think they might have finally found themselves a quarterback as well. So again, I think Miami, of course, Manny Diaz's job security is being, in question, but they've played very well lately. I mean, Tyler Van Dyke had another 389 yards, and look, a touchdown, but 3 touchdowns, I should say. But yeah, I mean, look, they're 3-2 in the ACC Coastal Division, so the lead division, I should say, but yeah, so look, I think they could probably maybe finish strong and perhaps get into a bowl game. Maybe that'll buy, Manny Diaz some time. But again, we'll just have to wait and see. Michigan had a nice bounce back win against Indiana, 29-7. So, and with Michigan State losing, so they're kind of right there like, peeking around in the Big Ten East Division. So a lot still could be decided there, with Ohio State and Penn State. Penn State can still, make a play for it. So a lot to be decided in that division.
Yeah, in Pac-12 football, the Arizona Wildcats finally get their first win of the season, defeating Cal 10-3.
Yeah, if you're Cal, that's not yeah. Oh God, I don't know what's going on over there at Cal. But look, good for Arizona. I know they got a first-year head coach, and I know that they've been, it's been kind of like a tough season for them. But it's a 20-game losing streak that they broke. It's the longest losing streak in Pac-12 history. So you're able to break that streak, and hopefully you can finish strong and build up for next year. So a nice win for them. Oklahoma State, beats a pretty tough. Like, who did they beat? I forgot. Just like
West
West
Virginia.
Virginia.
Yeah.
West Virginia. That was a really good score, and they kind of dominated too from the word go. I mean, people thought that I thought that this was going to be a tough game for them, but it turns out it was close for a little bit. But the Cowboys were able to pull away late.
Yeah, your favorite team for this year. I'm using air quotes for those of you watching and listening. Number 10, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. They dominated Navy 34-6. We won't review that one for your sanity, Lakeena. That's the least I could do.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
But the number 6 ranked team in the nation, the Cincinnati Bearcats, they barely hold on to defeat Tulsa 28-20.
Yeah, this isn't going to help them. They need a fumble on the goal line to kind of seal the win for them. And look, these are type of games that are not going to help you if you're trying to get into the playoff. This will not help you.
Yeah. And
also too, with Oklahoma being off, you're kind of like, if you're an Oklahoma fan, you're kind of rubbing your hands saying, aha, we can sneak in here now. So, this will not help them. I think the best that Cincy can do and just win the rest of their games and just hope, everything else sort of falls in front. Everybody else falls in front of them.
In Big 12 action, I should say, Baylor was upset by TCU 30-28.
Yeah, some upheaval over there at TCU. They got rid of their longtime head coach, Gary Patterson. They mutually decided to part ways. And look, good for them for, pulling it together and, pulling off a pretty big upset. So Baylor, look, Oklahoma State, they're kind of in the driver's seat in a collision course. Of course, they play each other in a couple of weeks, but of course, the Bedlam series, but they have other, Baylor, I think, can kind of be that team that sort of like can break that, that ceiling. But with that loss to TCU, and they still got to play Oklahoma State and Oklahoma, they can still. I think Oklahoma State, they already beat them, so this doesn't help them at all. But good win for TCU and sort of like the tough week they've had.
In SEC action, 14th-ranked Texas A&M Aggies, they upset number 13 Auburn 20-3 in dominating fashion. I was really disappointed in Auburn.
Yeah, unfortunately, Bo Nix, went back to the bad Bo Nix. Only 153 yards.
What did we talk about on Friday, Lakeena? Quarterback play.
Yeah, and also look because Calzada, I mean, he's kind of been banged up, but it was Isaiah Spiller, their running back, 112 yards. Also, Devin Achin, 98 yards. So they combined for over 200 yards, like most of their rushing yards. So that sort of helped them. They kept drives going, and Auburn, never mind the quarterback play. The Auburn defense just couldn't stop them, couldn't slow them down. So, no sacks, and these are now really weird over there in SEC West.
Going back to the Big Ten, number 21 ranked Wisconsin Badgers, they dominated Rutgers 52-3. As we told you guys the last couple of weeks, Wisconsin, after starting out the year 1-3, they are now turning it around. I'm not going to sit here and say, can they get to the Big Ten title game? I think that's way too early for that. Even if they win out the rest of the schedule, it's still going to be tough, but they can get into a better bowl game right now.
Actually, they can. They're actually, with Minnesota losing to Illinois, Wisconsin's now in the driver's seats in the Big Ten West. So, and they're getting better at the right time. And Graham Mertz, passed for another couple more touchdowns, passed for 240 yards. Also, to their running game, let's go back to what's actually been good for them. For the running game. I mean, I think that's sort of like, I think they realized, we actually have a couple of good running backs. You got a good one here, Braylon Allen, 129 yards, a touchdown. Also to Chase Malusi had a touchdown rush a touchdown as well. So, I think Wisconsin sort of like getting better right at the right time. And also, like I said before, they have the keys in the Big Ten West.
Staying with the Big Ten, it was the Penn State Nittany Lions dominating Maryland 31-14.
Could they perhaps maybe make a case in the Big Ten East? They still have an outside shot. I mean, it's still, like I said before, a lot still has to happen. And they're still like everybody, Michigan State, Michigan, of course, Michigan already beat Michigan, but then they lost to Purdue. They still got to play Penn State. Of course, they play Ohio State too, I think, next week. So still a lot to be decided there in the Big Ten East. So, I think no one should be discouraged or no one should be too far ahead of themselves.
You're listening to Second City Sports live and in living color on a Monday right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid Lakeena here with you as we review the key games from last Saturday's Week 10 extra from the world of college football. Let's go back to the SEC. Lakeena, Arkansas, which started out strong, that they've been struggling here over the last month. They get back on track with the upset win over Mississippi State 31-28.
Mike Glitch was not very happy. I think he saw it on his face when the final buzzer went off, and like you said, they've had a tough month. Losing to it's just a win like this can only help your psyche. So I think if you'll take this win because I think, like you said, they have not had a good month. So upsetting Mississippi State, I think a ranked Mississippi State team, mind you, I think that this is. And especially, the fact that they had to kind of like pull it out late. So they were able to kind of like, get in there and sort of, grind it out and win and, got that, that last touchdown, and a 2-point conversion to kind of help seal the win for them. So, also their defense made a big stop, in the last drive, to kept, the Bulldogs from tying the game. So you'll take this type of win, again, it proves that you can kind of pull out these kinds of wins. So they lost the last couple of times they won those type of games. They've lost these type of games before, so this only helps them.
In the last game of the Ed Orgeron era for LSU against Alabama, Alabama survives it by the score of 20-14. Lakeena, I know, as I mentioned, Ed Orgeron will be sick to his stomach, losing by 6 against the number 2 team in the nation.
They had plenty of chances to sort of pull that out, and they weren't able to. Drops and they had an interception. Max Johnson had an interception late. So, I know. Look, I'm not sold on Alabama yet. I know people want to say, "Well, Alabama, it's Alabama again." I know they only have one loss, but they could have lost a couple more times. So, I'm not there yet with them. And look, they still got a lot to do. Alabama does. So, but if you're LSU, yes, you probably are just kicking yourself that you couldn't be able to pull it out late. But it is what it is.
Yeah, the Kentucky Wildcats ranked 18th in the nation. They were upset by Tennessee 45-42.
Yeah, tough loss there, but also too a good win for Josh Heupel and the rest of that Tennessee Volunteers team. I think they've had some a couple of tough roads off the field. We won't get into it. You guys can Google for yourself, but I think for psyche purposes, I think this only helps them. The fact that you're able to beat Kentucky, a regular Kentucky team in Lexington. So, good on them.
Yeah, shout out to the alumni of this next school, the number 22 ranked Iowa Hawkeyes. Shout out to Maya Kai and Alyssa Bergamy, both friends of this show. Their school did well. They defeated Northwestern 17-12 in Evanston.
Yeah, they were. Yeah, Northwestern didn't have a very good drive. They thought that maybe they could probably come back. They scored a touchdown, but they failed the 2-point conversion. Then they had another chance to perhaps maybe win it, but their final drive was just, I don't know what they were doing in that final drive. But look, I think Iowa need a win like this because of what happened the last couple of games, last few games. So, you can still get in. You're 4-2 in the Big Ten West still, so you can probably, but you're losing a lot of tiebreakers right now. So we'll see if they can go at it for the West.
Number 23, Fresno State, they were upset and blown out by Boise State. The Broncos defeated them 40-14.
Payback. I think it was payback from a couple of years.
I think
it was payback from a few years ago when they were on the verge of an undefeated season and they got shellacked, and maybe Fresno State thought that maybe they had an outside shot, perhaps sneak into that New Year's Six game, but Boise said, no, you're gonna do it to a little payback time. So and the Broncos got it. So a nice win for the Broncos on the road. And look, that place was rocking in Fresno, California. So I'm sure they were very disappointed when Boise State kind of dominated them.
Yeah, a couple more scores for you guys to review. The number 4 team in the country, they have the last college football playoff spot as of now. The Oregon Ducks defeated Washington 26-16.
A lot of people there in Washington. The coach, the coach got into one of the assistants got fired, but now the school suspended the coach, Jimmy Lake for Saturday's game because of the altercations and stuff. It's just a lot of like upheaval in this once proud Washington program, and it's not looking good for them right now. Now, on the flip side, though, if you're Oregon, I think you're proving to folks that, hey, we deserve to be in the top four. I'm sure folks were probably saying that, wait, Oregon, but Ohio State winning, Ohio State keeping winning, and Fresno State, I know they lost to Boise State, but that Fresno game, I think, helps them. Anthony Brown had a touchdown pass and a run. He had an earlier session, but they were able to overcome it. And Travis Dye had 211 yards, and a touchdown. You probably think he should be getting some Heisman love too, but I'm just saying, Kelvin Thibodeau led the way, of course, for the defense, with 3 tackles. But it was Noah Sewell who also another big play on that defense. He had 10 tackles for also 2 of 5, solo tackles. So a really good win, of course, from these two rivals, because they lost in the last time they played a few years ago in Seattle. So this was sort of like their payback.
Yeah, the forgotten Clemson Tigers and Dabo Sweeney's squad, they defeated Louisville on the road 30-24. Back to West Coast action. Arizona State dominates USC. Herb Edwards, woohoo! They get by USC 31-16. A big win for the Sun Devils.
Yeah, I think USC is just, I think they're just waiting, like, okay, who's their next coach going to be? I mean, it just didn't look good, like you said, Sid. I think if you may have an outside shot if you're Arizona State to try to kind of sneak in there in the Pac-12 South, but a lot has to happen. Jalen Daniels had a couple of interceptions, but they which didn't lead to too much, but he was able to overcome that. It was actually Arizona State's defense that kind of helped propel them. So they had a couple interceptions between them. So it was just one of those weird games that kind of like you see the stats and you thought, but it's strange things that happen in Pac-12 football.
And our last score will be San Diego State. They're now in the top 25. They're ranked number 24. They get by Hawaii 17-10. And the big noon Saturday game for next week, we'll get into more on Friday, is number 8 Oklahoma going to number 12 Baylor.
Should be. I'm sure Baylor's not going to be in a very good mood after that loss. But again, Oklahoma's been off, so maybe their defense will play a little bit better. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, so that should be a fun one there. Again, we'll get to more. We're getting down to the wire in college football. So, folks, a lot to be decided still.
Yeah, we still have a couple minutes left here on Second City Sports Live and in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid, Lakeena here with you. Just some breaking news coming in from ESPN. Raiders cut former first-round pick Damon Arnett after video service of defensive back making death threats and brandishing guns. So we talk about the Raiders going through it on and off the field, and now at this incident to what they're going through this year.
Yeah, just so much stuff going on off the field for the Raiders. I think I don't blame them for not looking good against the Giants yesterday. Of course, Henry Ruggs III, and that sad, tragedy. A 23-year-old woman lost her life because he allegedly made a terrible decision. Of course, John Gruden stuff. Just not a good month for the Raiders on and off the field, I should say, more or less.
All right, last topic. Let's talk that hockey, Lakeena. So there's been some good news as far as Chicago's West Side hockey team, and that's the Chicago Blackhawks. They fired Jeremy Colleton last Saturday. As we know, Lakeena, not just in the news business, but in the sports business as well. Fridays and and Saturdays are usually news dump days because not too many people are paying attention. They worry about other things. But Hawks fans, including yours truly, was celebrated with high regard. This change was coming. Of course, they waited till after they announced about the lawsuit and settlement and the Cal Beach investigation. So Jeremy Colleton is no longer there as the head coach. The Hawks played the National Predators last night. Derek King, the former AHL coach from the Rockford IceHawks, he'll be the new interim coach going forward. The Blackhawks gave him his first victory last night, courtesy of Alex DeBrincat, a.k.a. The Cat. His overtime winning goal put the Hawks on the board 2-1 with a great assist from Patrick Kane.
Yeah,
Lakeena, I'm not saying this is going to be like the team 2 years ago where they nearly made the playoffs, and that's the same year that the St. Louis Blues, they were in the same position as the Hawks, right in the bottom of that Central Division, but they ended up winning the Stanley Cup. And I'm saying even playoffs, even though I was one of the few ones that picked them to go in the playoffs, but let's give them a couple of weeks to see what the Hawks are really made of. It's easy to come out and play your best to impress a new coach, but Lakeena, after a couple of weeks, we see how your team really plays. So let's give it some time to see how the Hawks look. But they played a good game last night. They actually held Nashville to 20 shots for the entire game, not a period, not a short stretch, but for a whole game. It was very nice to see.
Yeah, definitely. I know the Ottawa game. They beat Iowa 5-1 to get their first win of the season earlier last week. But this is probably their best overall game. The fact that they were able to pull it out in overtime. Of course, to bring it goal. With the assist from Mr. Patrick Kane. Also, I want to give a shout out to the two young guys that called those games. Those last week of games. Of course, as you guys know, NBC Sports Chicago are going to be trying out different folks. You got Colby Cohen, who's a former Blackhawk minor leaguer. He's done a lot of multimedia stuff for the Hawks. He's now going to be doing analyst games for them, of course. In lieu of Eddie Olczyk and whenever he takes a break. Also, Chris Walters, who our girl Alyssa knows. He went to Iowa as well.
Yeah.
They did the games for the Blackhawks. They went 2-2, so they had a pretty good showing and they did a great job. So I want to give those two young men a shout out. And also, as for the Blackhawks, again, we'll see if they can put together something. I know that they actually put in a little bit more effort. So I'm thinking that maybe again we'll see within the next couple of weeks. I'm not going to say that they're going to cure any kind of goodwill or good PR, but the Hawks need all the good PR they can get right now. Right. So if they can put together a really nice streak of games, you'll get to right at 500. Maybe make things a little bit interesting in the Western Conference in their division. We'll see. You never know.
Yeah, they host the Pittsburgh Penguins, perhaps without Sidney Crosby tomorrow night. Of course,
still the COVID protocols. Yeah.
Yeah, and the Pittsburgh beat the Hawks early in the season a couple weeks ago in the Steel City. Of course, one more reminder for you guys: the Chicago Bears will play the Pittsburgh Steelers in the Steel City tonight from Heinz Field on the Monday Night Football. That's at 7:15 p.m. on ESPN. For those of you that don't have cable, you can watch the game on Channel 9 at the same time at 7:15. ESPN feed. They won't tell you that, but we will. But you can watch that game on Channel 9. And also to check out our guy Ivan Vargas. He'll be doing the Barely pregame show. That's tonight, starting around 6:30, 6:45 or so, right here on Sports Zone Chicago, and then he'll have the post game after the game wraps up as well. So check out Ivan Vargas with the pregame show and the post game show. There's the Bears pre and post game show right here on Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube and on the Sports Zone Chicago app. That's at 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. And then, of course, immediately following the game, you want to tune into what Ivan has to say about tonight's Bears-Steelers contest. Lakeena, another great show. Let's wrap it up.
All right, enjoy all the week's games coming. Also, college hoops. College hoop season starts tomorrow, folks. So, a lot of great games coming up. We'll get more in depth into that at a later date. But even still, you can follow me at Keena McGee on the Twitter and at Keena_McGee on the IG.
You can follow yours truly, Sydney Brown, on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, at SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80. Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app. Make sure you follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to War on Anchor on these podcast platforms, WARR on Anchor, to listen to the audio version of this program, Second City Sports, and follow War Media on all social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Once again, at WARR Media. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
Yep. Lakeena, take us home.
All right, enjoy the weather. It's gonna get a little. I know it's been nice the last couple of days, but yes, Armando, we will see you on Friday. But enjoy the games, everyone. For Sid, I'm Lakeena. Be good to each other. Wash your hands, and if you're not gonna get vaccinated, at least wear a mask. This has been Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, and as Armando said, we'll see you Friday.
Go Bulls! Holla!